I'll tell Ivan to call me on that one too when that happens again.
Exactly. And by the way, he wasn't like the first lady that put it in the bank. 3 months later, I get an email from him. Hey, Donna, this paid off. Do you have any more notes? Which is interesting for me. I'm loving these investors that understand the early payoff, because as soon as they get the early payoff, they call me back up and want to buy another note from me. So that's really a win-win-win all the way
Absolutely.
around. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, I've got one more note that I want to share with you, and this is a note that my student, and I made up her name, but it's a real student. I'll call her Stella, and she had sent out direct mail letters, and Cindy, note seller, contacts her, and so Stella sent me the submission form. I wrote it all up, and we put a deal together with Cindy. Now, Cindy has a note, and the current balance owed on it is $25,910. And there are 51 payments of $565 left. And the payor is paying 5% interest, and she's wanting to cash out of this note. Well, as I mentioned before, my normal process is we arrive at a figure, and Stella and I would split the net profit on the deal. Well, as I'm going over everything with Stella, she sees that I told her, I said, here's what we need to offer this to an investor. And the investor was going to get like a 17% rate of return. Now, this is just a little note. So we only had like $4,000 profit built in, and Stella and I were going to split that profit. And the investors make 17%. Well, Stella says, Donna, I've got $17,000 in my IRA. Would it be okay if I buy this note? I said, well, I normally don't do that. But I tell you what, if I sold it to somebody else, we'd each make $2,000. So if you want to just build in $2,000 as a fee to me, that'll be fine, and you can buy the note. So that's what we did. So she bought the note for $19,586, which included $2,000 as my 50-50 split, plus $400. I think that was for an appraisal or something. We didn't have to do title work because there was already an existing title policy. Well, so she's got this nice discount built in. On a $25,000, almost $26,000 note, she's got a $6,400 discount built in. This works out that she's getting an 18.4% yield to maturity. I want to take just a break from just a minute and talk about yield to maturity.
That's good, because I was just going to ask you what that meant. So that's good you're doing that.
Hey, are you hearing a clicking in the background right now?
No.
Okay, just making sure that you don't hear it, because I'm hearing it. Okay, so an 18.4% yield to maturity, what that means, and when you're buying discounted notes, a lot of people talk about their return. I'm buying it at an 18% return. Well, if it goes all the way to the end, you're going to get an 18% return. But if it pays off early, you're going to get more than an 18% return. So the proper way to talk about when you're buying a note is you talk about the yield to maturity. And what that means is if it goes to maturity, if she takes 51 months to pay this off, then Stella's rate of return would be 18.4%. Okay? So it's a fancy name for just meaning if it doesn't pay off early. Okay?
Okay, good.
I say that just because sometimes people get confused, and it's really not that big of a deal. And I want people to realize there's a difference between yield to maturity and rate of return, because we know that she's buying this at 18%, but we also know there's a very strong likelihood that she's going to get more than 18.4%, which would then be her real rate of return. So what happens is, 8 months later, the payor refinanced. I don't even know if Stella did anything to encourage her, to be honest with you. I think the gal just wanted to refinance. So Stella gets a payoff of $22,200. Plus, she had received monthly payments for 8 months, okay? So her rate of return jumps to over 51%.
Nice.
Isn't that pretty sweet?
Nice.
And if she had done this on her own without my fee, her rate of return would have been over 70%. Okay?
Amazing.
So this was a great example of, we were doing this to split the profit, but she did this in her IRA. And she certainly knew to go out as soon as that paid off, she turned around and bought another note as well. So, do you see how easy it is, Linda? Just by getting an early rate of return, you can't help it. It automatically just makes, when you get an early payoff, it makes your rate of return go up.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah. Yep.
So that's why I get excited about this. And
yes, I can tell.
This is it's a great technique to grow your retirement. Now, you have to have a self-directed IRA, which I'm not going to get into now, but assuming you have a self-directed IRA, you could do all of these notes within your IRA so that all this money is going into your IRA, and it's not even a contribution. It's profit from your deal. So just as an example, when I started out many years ago, I had $3,500 in my IRA. I'd made contributions, had $3,500 in it. So I bought a little $7,000 second mortgage, and I negotiated an early payoff on that. Well, that gave me $7,000 in my IRA. So I turned around and I bought a $12,000 note. I negotiated an early payoff on that, so now I've got $12,000 in my IRA. So then I turned around and I bought a $20,000 note. So I took that $3,500 to $20,000 in no time at all, just by buying existing notes and helping them to refinance and pay me off. Isn't that sweet? So that's
really sweet. Yeah, that's really sweet. That's good.
It's very, very easy to do. It's not complicated. It's a simple process of just helping them to refinance and pay you off. It automatically makes your rate of return go up. So the bottom line is early payoffs on discounted notes. It's just a really simple way to get phenomenal rates of return.
Well, thank you, Donna. You certainly opened up my eyes and my mind. That's why I just went silent over the last minute or so, because I was just thinking about this, and I think the flexibility and the potential from owning the note rather than also owning the real estate I think, gives you a lot more flexibility. So I'm just, when you get to a certain age, you really want to make sure your retirement account is growing rapidly. So anyway, I'm just thinking about all that. So anyway, thank you, Donna, thank you so much. These were awesome examples, and you explained them really well. And I look forward to seeing you in person to experience some of your real and in-person training. All right, have a great day.
Thank you, Linda. Very nice to talk with you.
All right, bye-bye.
And I got to tell you, he knew exactly what to do when he got that early payoff. He wasn't like the other lady that put the money in the bank. I immediately get an email from him, and he wants to know if I have another note to invest that he could invest in. So that was pretty awesome. But, Linda, that is what we call a real win-win-win. It was good for him, it was good for the borrower, and it was great for me too. So I love when that happens.
Yes, and besides, repeat business, right? They keep coming to you to buy more notes. That's awesome.
Absolutely. I have one gentleman. He's now retired and doesn't do notes anymore. But over the years, I literally have done over 100 note deals with him. I mean, it was, and when you get people like that, it's so much easier to work with them. I mean, he used to call me up and he'd say, Donna, I've got $75,000. Such and such just paid off. Do you have anything? And I just say, yeah, I got something, and, it'll give you a 14% return. And he'd come over and drop the check off. And he didn't even look at anything. And then once I got it all together, then he'd go, oh, this is great. Thanks a lot, So, and that doesn't happen often. We were good friends besides, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Yeah, sure.
So I have one more example for a minute. Okay, this is a deal that my student did. And I believe I explained about the coaching program and how that all works with the Rick deal. Well, this was similar. Stella is obviously not her real name, but Stella's student, she had sent out direct mail letters, and she got a call from Cindy Noteseller, and she took down the information, sent the submission form over to me, and we were going through it all, and I was explaining, hey, I think I can sell this to an investor at, I think it was a 17% yield or something like that. And we were going to do the split 50-50 and everything. And Stella says, you know, you're going to sell this at a 17% return? She says, I've got that much in my IRA. Could I do this deal? And so what we did was we built in, this was just a little deal, you'll see in just a second. There was only like $4,000 of profit in flipping it. So we just built in a $2,000 fee for me to cover what I would have made, and Stella actually went ahead and bought this note. So the note, Cindy Seller has this note, and the current balance on it was $25,910. And honestly, you really need a note of at least $20,000 to $25,000. I wouldn't go any lower than this, simply because you can't build enough profit into it. But she has this $25,910 note. There are 51 monthly payments of $565 left, and it's written at 5% interest. So Stella buys this for $19,586. Now, that includes the $2,000 part for me, for my split, and it includes $400 in expenses. I think that was for an appraisal because this already had title insurance and everything, so we didn't have to fool with any of that. So Stella is getting this at a $6,424 discount. So that's pretty sweet on a little $26,000 note. And this works out to be an 18.4% yield to maturity. And Linda, I want to take a minute and talk about yield to maturity. I didn't mean to throw something out there and confuse anybody.
Right. But, no, I appreciate that because I was just about to ask you what that meant. So thank you for doing that.
Okay. Well, in the note business, especially in the non-performing arena, people talk about their returns all the time, which is the right way to do it. I mean, no problem with that. But when you're dealing with an existing seller carryback where you're buying it at a discount, what you really need to talk about is the yield to maturity. And all that means is if the note does not pay off early and it goes all the way to maturity, what would my rate of return be? So if it goes to maturity, your rate of return is 18.4%. But most notes pay off early. So in all likelihood, it's going to pay off early, and your rate of return is going to skyrocket. So your real rate of return is probably going to be much higher than the 18.4%. So when you see YTM or yield to maturity, know that that just means that if it doesn't pay off early, this is the lowest rate of return that I'm going to get. But if it pays off early, I'm going to make a lot more because I bought it at a discount. Does that make sense, Linda?
Yes, it does. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. So this was a great little deal for everybody. She was thrilled with it. So let me tell you, it paid off early. So I don't think that she helped her to refinance or anything. I think in this case, the gal just decided on her own to refinance, which sometimes happens whenever there's a change in the note holder. Like when somebody sells the note, all of a sudden it kind of stirs up the pot up, and the payer thinks, maybe I should go ahead and refinance. And I think that's what happened in this case. So 8 months later, Stella gets a payoff of $22,200. Her rate of return jumps to 51%. So,
nice.
and by the way, if she had done this on her own, her rate of return would have been over 70%. but by working my $2,000 fee in it, then that gave her a 51% yield or a 51% rate of return. So she was
I can live with
thrilled.
that.
Yeah. And the thing is, she didn't even do anything to get it. It just happens automatically. If you get an early payoff, your rate of return is going to go up. And see, Linda, I don't think that most people realize how easy that is. You know what I mean? They think they have to do this long, convoluted plan and all these super advanced strategies when a simple early payoff will really increase your rate of return. Okay. I'd like to talk about IRAs now, because all of these notes can be done in an IRA. But all of a sudden we're frozen. There we go. Okay, so all of these notes can be done in a self-directed IRA. It has to be self-directed, okay? And so if you have a regular IRA, you want to move over to a self-directed administrator, a trustee for your self-directed IRA. And you can get these kind of rates of returns in your IRA. And the neat thing, Linda, is you're not making a contribution. You start out with whatever money you have in the IRA and start investing in the notes. And when you get the early payoff and you get this windfall because of the discount, that's not a contribution. That's profit from your deal. So, for example, I did my first IRA deal. That was one of the first things I did, like over 25 years ago. And I had $3,500 that I had already contributed to my IRA. And I bought a little $7,000 second mortgage. And I worked with the people, and I got an early payoff on that. So then that gave me $7,000 in my IRA. Again, I didn't make an additional contribution. That was just profit from my original monies. So I took that $7,000. I turned around and I bought a $12,000 note. I worked and helped those people to get an early payoff. So then that gave me $12,000. I turned around and I bought a $20,000 note, and I haven't stopped since. And I don't even make contributions to my IRA now because I don't need to, because all the profit from my deals just keep rolling right into that. Isn't that pretty sweet?
That's very nice.
And the thing about using notes in your IRA, you don't have the hassles of the tenants, the trash, and the toilets. Like you said when before we got on here, that you were helping someone unwind a real estate deal. It would be a lot easier if you were working with the notes rather than the property. So that makes it a perfect investment for your self-directed IRA. Okay. Well, the bottom line is that early payoffs on discounted notes is really a very, very simple way to get absolutely phenomenal rates of return.
Wow. Well, you definitely have my mind thinking about how I can increase the money in my IRA, and you've definitely painted this pretty simply, and yeah, the rates of return are phenomenal. That's the best word for that. So, Donna, thank you so much for sharing these case studies with me and our listeners, because it definitely opened up our eyes, and I'm looking forward to learning more about what you have to teach and to offer. So thank you so much for doing that for us today.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.